Welcome to the Swam podcast. I'm today's host, Coleman Hodges, and joining us today, taking a deep breath, 5-time Commonwealth Games champion, 8-time world champion, 5-time Olympic champion, and now individual Olympic champion from Paris in the 200 free, as well as gold medalist as a part of the 400 free and 800 free relays for Australia. We are sitting down with Mollie O'Callaghan. Mollie, thanks for being here. How's it going?
Yeah, good. Thank you for having me.
This episode of the Swam podcast is sponsored by Commit Swimming, SwimSwam's exclusive team management software partner. Since 2015, Commit has been providing coaches with swimming's leading workout management software. And now, Commit has team management software too. Commit wants to help you make the switch from Team Unify to a simpler, more powerful solution. Their onboarding and customer service team will walk you through every step of the way. Check them out at commitswimming.com to book your demo today. That's COMMIT swimming.com. Absolutely. I'm very excited to dissect this meet with you, to dissect this year with you. But first, just how have the last few weeks been for you following Paris? I think you've been fairly busy.
Yeah, I would say I've had something on every day. It's a different kind of busy. So, doing all the social commitments like media, sponsorships, and, seeing family. But it's a lot different to swimming, like swimming's so structured, but this is like so sporadic. So it's a bit different, but it's really nice.
Have you been swimming at all, or do you have a plan of when you may start swimming again?
Um, so I haven't started swimming yet. I haven't really touched the water, only for a speedo photo shoot yesterday, and that was the first time I was a bit scared. Um, but I'm kind of thinking maybe like I'll give myself another month, like after all the media stuff is done, so I can have a little bit of time to myself. But it's kind of just go with the flow at the moment is when I feel like I want to return. I kind of want to have that hunger, that drive, and I know once I return, it's going to be all go until the next Olympics. So I think right now I need to take a lot of time.
It's so lovely to hear, and also just so interesting that everyone is kind of taking a different amount of time out of the water. What for you? I mean, I know you said it's once you get back in, it's pretty much wheels on until 2028. But for you, what do you feel like you are getting out of such a long time out of the water? It's maybe going on 1.5, 2 months, and it might go up to 2.5 or 3.
Yeah, so I feel like there's a lot you can get out of it. Obviously, having that mental break, like physically, you can continue to do it. Your body is able to do anything if you put your mind to it. But I think just, recollecting my thoughts and my goals and everything and kind of restructuring next year is the main goal. Yeah, and I think just having that clear like thought of like, okay, everything's done. Like I want to, take a moment to have a little bit of a pause and think about the past few years. But yeah, I think it's really important for your mental health.
Yeah. Have you ever taken this long out of the pool to date?
Um, yeah, like I would say, obviously there was the COVID time, in 2020, and then after Olympics, we did take a big break too. The last Olympics, I don't know if it was like 2-3 months. But yeah, like I think it's really important for myself. Everyone's a bit different, but for myself to just have this moment of just absolutely doing nothing and being lazy.
Yeah. But like you said, you've been on the go. You're doing photo shoots. You're appearing at events. Can you tell me about some of those? I think Swimming Australia just had their awards thing. Is that correct?
Yeah. Yeah, so that day was kind of busy. We did have three events in the one day. I had commitments in the morning. There was the welcome home for, Brisbane. So all the athletes got to meet all the public, and that was really exciting. And for the young ones to see everyone. And then we had the Swimming Oz Awards, which was midday. And then from Swimming Oz Awards, we went to the AOC Premier's dinner. So it was a very busy day, but it was nice to see everyone. We have a good chat. We get to be a little bit loose, a bit rowdy. But yeah, it's all about coming together, celebrating what we have achieved the past few years, and acknowledging everyone.
Yeah. I feel like I've been to some of I've been to banquets in my day, whether they're for USA Swimming or a high school or a college. I feel like they're a little dry sometimes in the United States. They're like a little too formal, a little rigid. I feel like Australian ones would be way more fun. I feel like you guys have this casual air about you that just makes even being at a formal event, uh, you know, you can still let your hair down and have a good time.
Yeah, exactly. They enjoy it. They come up and they're like, make sure you have fun, because that whole thing is about having fun together and creating memories. And, they don't want us to be a little bit bored sitting there. But yeah, like they want us to celebrate an extraordinary year, and they celebrate with us, and we all get to have fun and enjoy. So why not let your hair down, have a little bit of fun, have a good laugh?
So it sounds like a good time to me, and you got to do a photo shoot with Speedo. How was that? Are you comfortable being in front of the camera in that sense?
No, not really. I'm so awkward. Like it's not funny. I need to learn. I'm not a model exactly, but yeah, like I it's good to, just go promote the brand. And we had a few other athletes there, which was great, and you get to try on the new suits and everything and give your opinion about it and be like, I like this, I don't like this, but Speedo's really great, and like I'll do anything for them.
Hmm. I mean, it sounds like so many fun activities. That's great. Do you have any hobbies as an athlete that you just like pursuing in your off time like this?
Yeah, so like I kind of like the crafty type of stuff, like painting, anything crafty like that type, but I'm not really good at it. It kind of just, ends up in the bin afterwards. But yeah, like just having that little outlet where I can just, do whatever I want, hop on my iPad like a little crusty kid, and draw some drawings and all that. But yeah, it's really relaxing, and it's like there's in swimming it's kind of like you have to hit certain times and all that, but you can do whatever you want, which is nice.
Absolutely. I I love having creative outlets and being able to let yourself go free, right? As you said, swimming can be so narrow and so specific, and it's nice to just kind of let your mind out in the pasture and see what form it takes that day.
Yeah, exactly. I love it. Like, I'm trying to get some of the girls into doing a sip and paint on like stuff like that. Just try and drag everyone in to have a little bit of fun, do like a hobby outside of swimming. Because, you know, even swimming, it takes so much time. Like, the dedication to it. We rarely get any time outside of the pool. So, from moments like this to moments where we get a little bit of time in training, like you got to find something that can, keep your mind entertained and be that little release.
Preach. The sip and paint. I think it should catch on. Yeah,
Oh,
maybe.
absolutely.
Especially for swimmers, you gotta hydrate. It could you could sip whatever you feel like, but get creative. Okay,
Yeah, I agree. Yeah, absolutely. Why not?
I love it. So I'm going to talk about swimming eventually. I promise.
It's all good.
um, so you did mention that you want to take this time and specifically this year to reflect on your goals and I guess make new ones or reflect and move forward with new goals in this coming season. Have you had time or have you sat down at all and reflected on just what you achieved in Paris and maybe also how that aligned with goals you had moving into that meet?
Um, like I've had moments where I've kind of just thought about it. Um, there's parts of me that I'm like really happy with what I've achieved and it did align with my goals, you know. I would say the past few years, like I've progressed really quickly, and I've tried to gain as much experience as I could at each meet. So my goals kind of got, you know, bigger and bigger and bigger. And like I achieved what I wanted to achieve and I'm happy, like, you know, coming away as an Olympic champion. Like that's just, you know, something I never dreamed of, like never thought I could do, especially at the past Olympics. But there's also things that I'm like, oh my God, this is giving me like the drive to do more. Like I'm probably the most determined I've ever been off a meet. I know that like, you know, there's so much more to come. Like even with like, you know, the moments where, you know, you feel disappointed, it's such a positive thing that to like to keep you going, because like you have to think of a different perspective of it. And that's kind of what I've been doing is like, you know, yeah, I could have done better there, I know I'm capable of doing a lot more, but you know there's so much more to go. And like I know that like with these things they've given me the drive to continue this sport. So it's such a, you know, it's hard, but you know it's a bit of a blessing in a way.
Absolutely. I mean, I think the failure, and I'm not saying you failed, but you know, when anyone fails, that's where they learn the most, right? Or if you mess up, it's like that's where you're going to get the most information, where you can move forward and use it and grow. I think, and
Yeah.
I feel like I've heard that sentiment reflected in a lot of the athletes I've spoken with lately, which is really nice to hear. It's also, you mentioned how much you've grown so quickly in the past couple of years. I'm curious, just heading into this year, this Olympic year, and knowing that it would be a much different experience than Tokyo. Uh, because we weren't going to be in the middle of a global pandemic, but B, so it would be, you know, quote unquote normal, but B, also because I'm guessing your expectations for yourself were different. Um, how do you feel like you balanced having that accelerated growth curve that you mentioned, but also coming into this year with a lot of eyes on you and being the defending world champion in two events?
Yeah, it's a difficult one because each year, like I've had to, you know, gain as much experience, learn from, you know, the mistakes and the good things. And you know, I was really happy that I had my coach by my side to kind of give me that guidance. But you know, from Tokyo to being a relay only swimmer, like I had some experiences there where it was like, you know, I didn't make it to the finals because I was unexperienced. And that gave me the drive to be like, okay, I'm going to make sure they're never going to let me out of a, you know, shut me out of a final again. So that gave me the drive to then the next year to become the world champion in the 100 freestyle, which was a big jump, I'm not going to lie, because all I wanted was just to make the individual or make, you know, the finals in the relay. And you know, from that, there was a lot of pressure. There was a lot of pressure from that to like, you know, do what's like, you know, progress from that to do a better time, to, you know, gain more experience, to, you know, continue to sit at the top of the 100 freestyle. And I did the 200 freestyle, I came second, but I didn't, to be honest, I never really like liked the 200 freestyle until like the later, like but like last year to the year before, like 2022 at the end, I was like, ah, okay, I kind of like it since commerce. But yeah, like just learning a lot about myself and trying to like accept that pressure and you know, adapt to it, because each time it's like, oh, like, you know, they add another thing on and they're like, you do this, and I'm like, okay, I've got to learn about myself. And you know, from them experiences where like at trials this year, like I've spoken about this a bit, is like I didn't feel like myself. Like I got to the point where my nerves like were out of control, like the night before the 200 freestyle, because of being a world record holder. I've never experienced that before heading into like one of the major meets. And I felt like there was a lot of pressure of me to do that or better. And I like I couldn't sleep that night. I had a panic attack. I couldn't breathe and stuff. But I learned a lot about myself. I'm like, I'm capable of swimming under any circumstance, from like a knee injury to that to anything. So I guess I gained all that experience heading into this Olympics, and I'm grateful a lot of that stuff happened during then and not at the Olympics. In a way, nothing could have prepared me for an Olympic Games, because it's such a different animal, like comparing to Tokyo, where the buses were smooth, the accommodation and the walk, and there was no crowds and all that. It was an easy transition, and I think that was great to set me up for my first, senior team and a first like international like competition. It was a great transition. But this Olympics, like nothing could have really prepared me for, because we tried to walk as much as we could. Like there was so many things that kind of restricted us from being great. But I think about it now, and like I'm like, wow, we did such an amazing job considering all those conditions. Like, you know, I'm grateful to be a part of the Olympic team and to have those experiences. And I knew heading in that it was going to be difficult. Um, but yeah, like I'm just so stoked that I was able to achieve that much with those conditions. And I know some other places and countries had, staying next to the pool or something like that. But I'm pretty proud of the Aussie team for, sticking together and, just holding it out and taking on any challenge.
The This is what we're here for. This is the good stuff. Sorry, there was so much there that I wanna touch on
Yeah.
and ask about. First off, if you look at population between Australia and the United States and how many, I think the US won one more gold medal than Australia did. I'd say that's a pretty dang good showing for Australia. It seems like
Absolutely.
seems like they had a great meet. And I mean, of course they did. And of course, I mean, the world championships that Australia had last year, I don't see how they couldn't have had a sensational Olympics. And I think they 100% delivered. But backing up to Olympic trials, I had seen a couple articles about the nerves that you had felt at that meet. But I am curious, in that 200 freestyle, it was the fastest 200 freestyle heat in history. I think, but pretty confident about saying that. Arnie broke the world record. You were under your previous world record. Looking back on that swim now, how do you feel about not the race or the placement, but just that swim for you?
Yeah. Yeah, like taking out like, the achievements and everything. Like I'm
Yeah.
stoked with the time, but I felt like I tried something a little bit different, and that's good that I stepped out of my comfort zone. Um but there was so many things that I just felt like as I said before, I didn't feel like myself. Like I was tense the whole race. I didn't feel like I was, when you just feel free and you're flowing in the water. Um yeah, like I just didn't feel like that. And that's okay. Like, I'm happy that I performed so well under those circumstances. But yeah, like I'm a little bit, I'm not gonna lie, I'm a little bit disappointed. I'm very self-critical. I'm very tough on myself. And like a lot of people are like, oh my God, you should smile a little bit more after a race, because I know that, you know, an Olympic gold is such a hard goal. And like, I think about it and I'm like, oh my God, this is, will this be able to get an Olympic gold? Like, have I done everything like possible to try and, as I said before, gain as much experience to prepare me for that final at the Olympics? And a part of myself felt like I let myself down in that race. And but at the end of the day, like it happened. I'm stoked with the time, but I think I can do a lot more, and I'm capable of a lot more. Like, I kind of wanted myself to go a 151. And like I didn't do that, but like 152 for like that's pretty sick. I'm not gonna lie. Being able to do a 152 twice, is pretty special at the age of 20. And like I'm just so excited for what else I can do. And like Arnie did an amazing swim. Like I'm not gonna lie, she's an absolute beast when it comes to racing. So it's good to have that push, and like, to have one of the world's fastest 200 freestyle like finals and heats and all that. And the girls are there's so much depth. So I'm really excited. And like I look upon that race and I was like, it was a pretty sick race.
It's a pretty sick race. that that really sums it up. It's interesting. I feel like I have talked to Kaylee McEwen, and she spoke about being, I think, equally as self-critical or self-analytical, and like always wanting more and more and more out of yourself. And she spoke about it to the point of it affected her confidence sometimes. And you wouldn't know it because her performances are just rock
Outrageous.
solid. Yeah. I mean,
Yeah.
back to back to back to back, like she is the two-time Olympic champion in both backstroke events, added a bronze medal in the 200 IM to boot, but she keeps, but she said her confidence would still waver because of how much she would analyze her own swims. Does do you feel that from over analyzing things, or is it more of just this is how I'm going to grow and improve myself?
I feel like it's a bit of a both. Like, I really relate to Kaylee. I really look up to Kaylee. Like, we're best friends and we both relate to each other so much. Like, we talk to each other about this stuff because we're in a similar boat. We're like, oh my God, like, this is not to my standards. Like, I can achieve a lot more. Like, this went wrong in the race. And like, you think about it and you're like, yeah, I can grow from that. Like, taking those little bits of the race and knowing you still performed well with like one little stuff and you're like, what else could I do? Like, can I achieve a lot more if I fix that one thing up? And it's a great thing with swimming is because there's no perfect race. There's, even if you do the world's fastest time, it's still not perfect. And that's what I've realized, like nothing is perfect in this sport. And it's hard to strive to reach perfection, but just learning from like every circumstance. And it does kill your confidence a little bit when like you're so self-critical, you doubt yourself so much because there's been a lot of blocks in this lead up that I've had moments where I'm like, am I able to do this? Like, I don't think like my training's good enough, even though it was, and it was on like standard, because I'm always striving to that next level. I'm like, you don't know what the others are doing, and sometimes the unknown kind of scares us. So that's why we are so self-critical, is because we're like, well, what if someone else is doing, what if they're doing this and I'm doing this wrong, I have to fix that up. So it's just that point that really gets to me, is like, oh, you don't know in the sport what you're going to achieve in the future. You don't know anything. And, in the moments you have to just strive to for them 1%ers, but sometimes it can really consume you, and it can make you enjoy the sport or hate the sport sometimes. And there's moments like that. But yeah, I would say like a part of it has destroyed my confidence, especially in training, where I've just gotten to the point where I just continuously doubt myself and what I've done in training. And, I think it can be such a negative thing, but also can be such a positive thing. And yeah, it's a hard one that I'm still working on, and I'm still trying to like improve and learn from it. And especially, being able to be in the room with like rooming with Kaylee in the same apartment, to seeing her and talking to her and being open about this stuff. I've learned a lot from her, and like to be able to watch what she achieves under those moments where she's so self-critical and all that, it gives me the like confidence. It kind of boosts my confidence, but at the same time it's a bit weird. But to see her do that and succeed, really makes me wonder like, oh, I'm capable of doing that too. Like, I'm going to learn from what she's done and achieved. And yeah, I think it's such a weird thing.
I feel like this is the blessing and curse of being at the top of
Yes.
your sport, right? Of being
Yeah.
the very best, is like you said, you're trying to achieve at the very highest level, but then there is that unknown of what is everyone else doing.
Yeah, it just never ends.
It's just never ends. I guess that's why people retire. And just like, I can't do it anymore. Well, and like, I mean, I think that's a lot of athletes are, it's like, okay, I'm ready to be done with that. Anyway, we're not here to talk about retiring. I am curious how Coach Dean Boxall plays into this, and how you feel like he balances those two things, because obviously it's his role to help you improve and to point out those points of improvement, but also to lift your confidence, right? And so I'm wondering how your relationship has grown with them, and where he fits into that area.
Yeah, so Dean's such a talented coach. Like, he has been able to, really individualize and tailor the program to each person's needs. And especially with just that outside communication, he's learnt along the way, like, each person's like, you have to do this to get, a bit of a boost in training for this person. And they respond to, like, some people respond well to, criticism or stuff like that. So he's learnt along the way, and I think it goes both ways for a coach and an athlete to respond, to talk about things that work in training, especially in racing. So when I first joined, like, I was really closed off. I didn't like communicating. I was kind of like, I'll deal with it, like, myself, and like, I don't want someone to perceive me as weak if I'm communicating about, like, if I'm, having a problem with like my shoulder or something like that, or just random stuff like that, or just life in general. I didn't want to be perceived as weak. But I learned, it's quite strong to be open and communicate, like, your wants and your goals, and like your emotions and your feelings and everything. And that's what Dean is great at. He's able to, get get a response out of each person in each moment, and he uplifts everyone. I'm quite like, he kind of sees when I'm a little bit pissed off or I'm a little bit upset. Like, he can read each person really well. So in moments where I'm really self-critical, he kind of pulls me aside. We have a conversation about it, and I get everything off my chest, what I'm feeling, my thoughts. And then he kind of takes that in consideration, and we work out a way, like, what's the best way to handle this in during training, or this block in time. Like, I know there's going to be times in training where you're like absolutely smashing it, you're feeling good, you're confident, and then there's moments where, like, I've gotten sick a few times throughout this lead up, and there were big blocks, and I was really nervous because I was like, oh my God, I'm going to fall behind. And then, I wasn't letting my body recover, because I would hop in training and I would absolutely smash myself, because I'm like, I don't want to fall behind. I don't want people catching up to me. I want to continue this. And he's kind of had to step aside and be like, wait, if you're doing this right now, it can cause more harm to you than than in the future. And he kind of is like, calm to the storm. I'm a bit like, a bit like, fiery, like, bit hectic. I want to get in there, do this, and I get really like frustrated, especially when things get really like annoying and I can't control it, and I get really, aggravated and stuff. So even moments in racing, he's always calm, collected, and he knows in training, I think, that I'm already really self-critical and I don't really need to be told. I kind of go up to him, I'm like, no, this is what I need to work on, this is what need to work on. And then it's open conversation of his thoughts and opinions on it. And then, yeah, it goes both ways at the end of the day. And, I'm really glad to have a coach like Dean who's able to communicate those things, and to be open, and to individualize his program with each person, but also that communication with each person.
I feel like that has to be key with a coach and an athlete, right? I mean, the two-way street, to feel like not only the coach is having an impact, but to feel like that you are taking ownership of what you're doing and having input of what you're doing as well.
Yeah, exactly. And I think, having that ownership and that drive, that really gets Dean excited in a way, because he can see that you want it, you want that drive, and then he responds a lot more. So, if that person, anyone in the pool, is doing, all the things needed to be done, and and communicating that, and being like, here's my goals, and being opened and wanting that response, Dean, really thrives off that. He goes, okay, they really want this. I'm going to give them more attention, and I'm going to, set them up, because I think at the end of the day, like, you have to have that drive. And Dean is the one who's going to, guide you there. Like, it's a bit like F1, you're the, little car, and there's the little mechanics and stuff. So, yeah. So it's kind of like that, there's a big support team behind it, and Dean's, the brains behind it. And yeah.
Yeah, I mean now we've seen him do this with multiple athletes. It seems like he works really well with an athlete who is very self-motivated. Would you say that that is the majority of the group that you train with at St. Peter's?
I would say absolutely. We all kind of thrive off each other. We're all watching each other, and we all set standards for each other. So if we see people lifting, we don't want to we don't want to fall behind. So we kind of watch and observe each person, and that energy we all feed off. If it's a positive environment, and everyone is there for the same goals and the same drive, and we all feed off it. And I think such a great environment. It's There's a lot of pressure, and there's a lot of standards, and you compare yourself to a lot of the other athletes, but at the same time we get the best out of each other. And I think that's why Dean is such a successful coach, is because he's set up such a great environment for us.
So speaking of this environment, I'm going to back up to something you said earlier. You didn't start out liking the 200 freestyle. You grew into that event. Tell me about that progression for you, and if or how that changed how you were approaching training, or just what your training ended up looking like as a result of embracing that event.
Yeah, so it kind of started off, I joined St. Peter's. I was a backstroker, and then I made the team for the junior world team for the 50, 100 backstroke and 100 freestyle. I was like, oh my God, 100 freestyle, like, that's nuts. And Dean was like, okay, you have the potential over the past, like 2019 to 2020. Like, I had the potential to maybe scrape into the team in the 100 freestyle for the 4x1. And then he was like, we need to do the 200 freestyle, because that helps the 100 freestyle, but also having the 100 and the 200 team, you're most likely going to be accepted on the team, because you're a lot more flexible to make the team, and they'll put you on the team. So yeah, that kind of is how it started. And then I, started from that experience at the Olympics. I was like, okay, like, there's so much more I can do in this 100 freestyle and the 200. And each year Dean was like, okay, we're going to do the 200 free to help you 100. And like, you have potential in the 200 to do great things. And, I was achieving such great things in both of the events, and progressing very well, and learning and learning, especially the strategy and the tactical side, because they're both such difficult events. And you know watching like the older girls progress and achieve things like Emma, and I was like, okay, I had that hunger. I was like, I want to try and catch up to them, because it's such a hard team to like event and team to make in the 100 and 200. The girls are pretty much like, that's an Olympic final right there. That's an Olympic final. And like at our Brisbane meet, at our Queensland meet, to national meet. So like, being able to race alongside them, I learned a lot. And especially Arnie in training, Dean had that experience with Arnie in the 200 free. So yeah, I had to watch and observe, and progress my training more to the 200, to try and like catch up and try and get that background, that the kind of the background work, because you need a bit of that in the 100 too. So it was only until Commonwealth Games where I was like, okay, like, I've got the potential to maybe get second at Olympics, or gold at Olympics in the 200. So I started feeding more into the 200 work and the 100 work still. And I would say for this Olympics, especially after last year, I mainly focused probably on the 200 a lot more, because I've had that pressure of repeating that world record and to hold that standard. And I started weirdly loving the 200 a lot more than the 100 because I found out like my style is probably more suited to the 200, as Dean has said. Pretty much, like he's like, oh, you have the potential, your style is very, 200. um it's such a difficult thing because I haven't really thought about this. It's such a weird thing to have turned into like, 100 swimmer into a 200 swimmer. And like I hated it before, but now I've loved it because I didn't understand it. I think it's because I didn't understand it and I didn't know how to race it. And until I learned how to race it, then I started appreciating it and loving it. And that was kind of from the Commonwealth point where I was like, oh, I understand how to race this. I found the way that I can race this properly, and this is a lot better than what I thought it would be. So it's such a random, weird way to find this, but yeah.
It is surprising that, I mean, usually you kind of see athletes move down in meterage
Mhm.
of races than rather than move up. But like you said, it seems like your racing style, or your tendency to just have that really strong finishing speed, is suited very well for the 200. Did that affect how you were approaching training at all? Or, I mean, were you swimming more? Were you swimming the same as you were? Were you doing different kind of work, especially leading into this year, just to prepare more for that 200? Or was it just what you had been doing?
I think it's I always follow Dean's program. Um and I'm in the middle distance squad. I have always been in the middle distance squad because when you're a bit on the younger end, I feel like you have to build that base. And being in that middle distance is kind of best of both worlds. You get the sprint and the distance. So I was just mainly trying to build that base, and then it really like this year I kind of just started feeding, like I got the options to do some sessions as a sprint session or a distance session or a mid distance session. So I always kind of leaned towards that middle distance to like 200 pace work. And I think that's because that gave me a bit of confidence. Sprint is such a hard concept. Like distance is hard, sprint is also very hard. Like even though I get a bit jealous, they do a few less Ks and they have a few dive 25s max or something, whatever it is. There's a bit of me that's jealous, but I know like that's not what I need, and I need to do something that's better for me. But I kind of hop in that sprint squad, and like I wouldn't say I'm the speediest person when it comes to sprint, and that's like what I've learned over the years is I need to build that speed. So I kind of had to try to build a little bit of speed this year, a little bit more. But I'm just still figuring out how to do that in a race, because I'm capable of doing it in training and continuously going back and forth, and I'm the type of person who can kind of hold and just continuously keep doing it. But yeah, like there's so many things that I probably need to work on, and I tried working on this prep, and I just need to how to implement that into racing, and that's through trial and error. Like next year is going to be a perfect year to kind of set everything up. There's no expectation. We're just going in this next year to have fun. I don't know what meets I'm going to do, but I think, it's a perfect opportunity to progress my swimming and my race style, and just like try new things in training too. And I think I've learnt a lot from this prep, and I haven't really had a meeting with Dean yet because he is on a holiday and I don't want to annoy him. And I think he needs a lot of time away from us because we spent so much time together. Um, but yeah, I just need to have that conversation of what do you think worked this prep? What do you think I need to work on? And how do I implement that into my racing?
So in this, I guess this year or this Olympic lead up, what are you the most proud of in terms of changes you've made or things you were able to accomplish just in training?
Oh, I don't know what I'm really proud of. I haven't really thought about it yet. Like, I think, you know, I actually was really proud of myself after trials in that lead up to Olympics, because I'm not going to lie, each lead up to a main meet, something has not gone to plan, or, something has happened and I haven't had the best lead up. But, losing that world record, a lot of people would crumble in that moment. And it kind of gave me the moment where I was like, there's no pressure. Like, I'm not Olympic champion, not world record holder anymore. Let's just absolutely send it in this training. I'm gonna take each notes what I like. Dean came back and was like, this is what you need to improve on from that race. And what I did was I worked those things and I continuously strive through it, even through the easy stuff to the hard stuff. And I set myself, you know, to a new standard. I was like, okay, if I'm comfortable doing this in training, it's going to come easier in racing. And I think, I stepped out of that comfort zone, and like I do that a lot in training. I've said this before, and one quote that Dean kind of has said to me before that has really stuck with me for years is, get comfortable with being uncomfortable. And in those moments, like, I've put myself through really difficult moments throughout this lead up from last year, like when I dislocated my knee before racing, and not having that proper break kind of led into having problems throughout this lead up. And there's been a lot of moments where I get really frustrated, like I'm capable of dealing with pain, I'm capable of doing that, but when it's not working and it's letting me down in training and stuff like that, then I get frustrated. But I've learned that I'm able to push through those moments, and I think that aspect has made me really proud of myself in this lead up, because there's been so many setbacks and I've just pushed through. And sorry, I'm a little bit sick at the moment. And like, at the camp, the Bronte did little bracelets for us for the 4x1 girls, and gave us a word each. I don't remember everyone's, but I do really like hers. Hers was all dog new tricks, but my word was tenacious, and I just felt like, that kind of made me reflect. Like, that moment made me go, oh wow, like what I've done and put myself through and pushed myself through, like I really resonated with that. And I was like, wow, that moment made me realize how proud I am of putting myself through moments where there's been such difficult situations and setbacks. And I think, over this prep, in the whole past few years, I've learned so much about myself.
Tenacious O'Callaghan. I feel like it's fitting. It rolls off the tongue. I'm going to ask you questions not related to you at all. Did Bronte write another poem that she read to you guys?
Yeah, she did. I think it actually got released on one of the videos on AOC. So the AOC used it for the whole Olympics. So they did a video and it was Bronte talking in the background. And she read the poem at the Olympic pool when we did our first walk in. And it's such a beautiful thing. Like, she's so creative. I don't know how she puts it together so quickly, and just it fits so well, and it just represents the team. So she is just amazing when it comes to just bringing the team together. And like, it was such a beautiful moment.
I remember hearing about the one from 2021, and I think I got to talk to her about that as well. But I know I read that poem, and yeah, it was like, it floored me. It's just like, I was speechless. It was amazing. So that's what a treasure for the Australian team, that you guys get to have a leader who can galvanize through creativity like that.
Yeah, exactly. And like, she brings that side, and so many more athletes bring, incredible things to the table. And it's just great because we have like such different personalities, and, we all bond together and no one really shuts off from each other. We're not, we don't go into our little groups or anything. And it's just a great environment to be around, and everyone is just so supportive of each other, and they bring something to the table, which is nice.
That is really nice. And yeah, just I mean, that's what you want to hear about a team, right? that they gel well. And so, speaking of teams that gel well, you got to meet one goal. You got to be in the finals of an Olympic 400 free relay on day one. Can you tell me about that? Just walking out for finals, what was unique to you about that group of women? And what was the vibe before that first relay where, it looked like a slam dunk for the Dolphins?
Heading into that final, like we all know, like there is no guaranteed win when heading into it. We were favorites. We've always been favorites in the 4x1 free. We've had such a strong team and such big depth. And as I said before, like at trials racing that, it was an Olympic final, and that gives us confidence. We're able to race in such a pressurized environment and to have such big competition at local meets. But to look amongst those girls, I've watched each of those girls train. I've used to train with Meg Harris. I've trained with Shayna. I've watched Emma, and especially the girls in the heats. There's Bronte and Liv Welch. But to just spend moments with them and to be in that marshalling room was just so excited, because like we just sat in there, we just wanted to have fun, we chat, we have fun, we're not all serious, and we come together as a team. We want the best for each other, we want to do the best for each other. And when I dive in for that, the first leg, I'm just giving it my all. Like there's no thought of, oh, this is not an individual, because there's a lot of people that I've met who go kind of look down upon relays, but just being amongst such successful women, I want to live to my best for those girls. When I touched the wall and I kind of looked at the time, I was like, is that going to be good enough? Because, I want to give them the best chance of winning. Like, I want it to be a clear win. And that's what we do when heading in. We're there. Like, no matter what, if you touch the wall last, we're going to bring it out, or we don't give up on each other. And we just have seen what each other has gone through, and you know and I think that's what builds us, because we have so much respect and we know what it takes to get to that point. And there's been so many moments that have got us shutting out of like a relay, or you know has just like different moments that we have all experienced, and we've been there to support each other. And I think that's what makes us really strong, is having that support and foundation, and just that love for each other and that friendship. And to be in that marshalling room with some of the most amazing swimmers and successful swimmers ever is just, you know jaw dropping, because sometimes I forget about it. I go, oh my god, like this is, just racing and that. But when you take a moment to appreciate it and to appreciate the women you're with, is just next level.
The accolades on that relay alone, let alone that marshalling room, yeah, pretty deep. You brought up another swimmer. We talked about the seasoned veteran of the team, Bronte, Olivia Wunsch, 18 years old, made her first Olympic team, got a gold
Yeah,
medal.
so it's crazy. Like I kind of see myself in her, like, in those moments, that being able to hop onto the team for a relay is just such a perfect way to set up your career. Like you learn so much, you get to go into the marshalling room with a group of girls. It kind of relieves your nerves, because you're supported. It's not just you racing, it's the whole team. So like I just think like she did an amazing job to start off her career.
Yeah. What did you interact with her much, just outside of the actual competition, or outside of swimming or training? Because right, like you were that kid, that Olympic rookie just a few years ago, getting to know everyone and getting that first time experience.
It's great, because like everyone's just a family. We all talk to each other, like no matter what. Like everyone just fits into the team so perfectly, no matter your age or the experience on the team. Like you are one of us. And so like moments whenever we see each other, anyone on the team, we try and communicate, we try and have a good chat and laugh. And especially leading up to the Olympics, I find it really difficult during before, like just before a meet and during a meet, to have moments like that. I'm kind of just seeing my roomies, because I have such a heavy program that I don't have moments to kind of just be around the team and feel that relief of just, getting to chill, just to enjoying it and taking in the moment is kind of all go for me. So like there was so many people around her to support her, to guide her, from the coaches to the support team to the athletes, and no matter where she was, and especially like hopping out of that final and to have them there behind the podium. And like it's really sad because I want them to be a part of that moment too, because that's their Olympic goal. They got us to that point, and we wouldn't have been able to win that without them. And I was really hoping to see them on the podium with us, or to do a walk around with us. And but at least like they were there at the front, not like last time Tokyo we were somewhere up high, like you couldn't see us and we couldn't celebrate with the girls. But you know from that experience last time, I really want the girls to be a part of it, and because I think they deserve it so much. They've put so much effort in. Like everyone trains like an Olympic gold medalist. I've heard that from someone, and I was like, oh my god, that is so true. um and yeah, like I was just excited for her to receive that gold medal and to start off her career.
I think that's a great point and a great insight of you and how you're coping with a 9-day competition where you are swimming just about every day, if not every day, uh,
Yeah.
and racing, and trying to be your absolute best every single time you touch the water. So I love hearing that you're like, okay, at a certain point, I got to kind of zero in, and only stick with my people, and get down to business. Did what you guys touch first in that 400 free relay? Did Olympic gold feel like you had imagined it would?
It's crazy to say, but it doesn't feel any different. I didn't feel any different. I felt excited to be like finally a part of that moment in that team, but in my mind, in that moment, I had to stay kind of like really professional and kind of not celebrate too early because there's such a big meet like ahead of us. So in the mind, I just had to keep the mentality, because Olympics is the pinnacle of our sport. I just had to be like, oh well, I've done a world champions. This is just world championships, but with more people. So I had to just keep like just a mentality of like, okay, there's a lot more to go. Like I want to continue this drive for the girls. Like I want to continue uplifting the team in any way that I can. I want to do the best that I can for the team, because at the end of the day, it's not really about myself or any of us. It's about Australia, the team, getting that, doing our best that we can in the water, because this meet, it just means so much to everyone, even the public. Like, they get to feel the nerves for us. So I just wanted to stay focused, and I just wanted to channel in and do the best that I could do, so I could set up the team the best that I could.
So with that mentality in mind, just trying to treat it like a normal meet. You've been to world championships, you've won world championships. Flash forwarding to the 200 free final, especially after the experience we had at Olympic trials. How were you able to navigate that race, especially leading up to it? Were you in a good headspace? Did everything flow in that swim, or was that still a situation where it wasn't perfect?
Um, Look, like I was nervous heading up to it. It's normal to be nervous. Like everyone like deals with a race differently. And I just use that as a positive thing. It makes me think that I really want it, and like I couldn't nap and like do stuff like that. Obviously, like I'm on edge. But that means I'm ready to go, and I think like for that 200 free, obviously I wasn't in that position that I was at trials, and I learnt from that, and I was like, I'm glad that it happened at trials and not Olympics. And I just thought to myself, I just have to be myself. I just have to race like myself. Who cares what happens? I've got nothing to lose here. It's all the girls in that race are phenomenal. I have Arnie beside me. I have Siobhan. And I was just like, whatever happens, happens. I've just got to be proud of myself. I've done the work behind me. I have an amazing support team behind me. I Dean. I listen to, my pre-race. Takes me a few times to get it in my head because I'm so nervous. I'm like, wait, tell me again. But yeah, so those moments, like I've just got to channel in and know that there's a big support team behind me, and I've just got to trust in myself. Dean's like, you've done the work behind you, you're capable of doing it. Um, and I think just, yeah, reflecting of what I've achieved and what I've learnt gave me that guidance. And I sat in that marshalling room. It was nice to have Arnie there, so I get to have a little bit of a chat and we get to have a little bit of a fun and enjoy it before the race. Like, in the water, everyone's rivals. And when I dove in, I just went into the state of flow and it kind of got to that 150 mark. And I was like, I feel phenomenal. Like, I felt phenomenal in the water. It felt like I hadn't really wasted any energy. Like, it's really hard to remember a whole race. Like, I kind of forget majority of it. But yeah, like there's moments where I was like, I could have fixed this, I could have fixed that. But this is Olympics is not the moment to be thinking about that. It's the moment to just get in, race. Who cares about the time? It's just touch the wall, see what happens, do the best for yourself, your country. Um, but yeah, I got to that 150 and I felt really great. And I was like, let's just leave it on the floor. Let's just send it. And I've done the training to be able to back this up. And I just had to have that confidence to, do the turns, work my skills, and just work the best to my ability. Stop like not focusing on what everyone else is doing. Yes, it's a race. I want to beat them. I want to match them, but I've got to listen to my own body and my own training. And I had Dean there saying the same thing. And I think, that's how I got the best out of myself.
Ooh, I love this answer. If there are young swimmers, take note. Uh, Getting the best out of yourself, channeling your best physically, and you teed this up perfectly because I was going to like paint this picture or go through this lens because I'm curious how the 200 free you swam, you tried to do your best physically, it was flowing, you win a gold medal. You touch first, you're 152. Then your other individual event, the 100 free, you were 52.4.
Yeah.
That's still a very good swim, right? And like again, I'm thinking like, what was your headspace the same? Did it feel the same? Because by all accounts, if you take the context out of it, kind of like we did earlier, 52.4 is a great swim, right? I mean,
Mm.
and that's it's like if you didn't have any other numbers with it, you'd be like, oh, that's maybe as good as the 152 200 freestyle. So yeah, like conversely, how were you feeling about your 100 freestyle from that lens?
Um, Look, my 100 freestyle has been very consistent over this year. I would say it's been very situated around the same time. I kind of had that pressure to try and take the next level. Obviously, like we all want a PB, we all want to win. And heading into like after that 200 freestyle, stepping up, getting gold, like I looked at the time, and obviously it's not the time that I exactly wanted, but as I said before, it's about just winning and doing the best for your country. And heading into that 100 freestyle semis finals, like there was a lot of things that happened behind the scenes. And I think, produce that time that I did and to be able to get fourth, like it's pretty sick. Like I'm pretty happy with that. Like not many people would be able to, survive those conditions and do that. Because after the 200 freestyle, it is emotionally taxing when you do win an individual Olympic gold. Like, and then you've got to go drug testing and then you bust back. Like there's so many variables that happen to it, and you get back and then the 100 freestyle heats are earlier, and you're just tired, you're starting to get drained. And as I said before, it's a different beast to Worlds. Worlds has your comfort in mind, and they want you to perform your best 4 times. Olympics, they're trying to have this many athletes in the village, um, and they're trying to accommodate to everyone. But I'm glad, like, I had the AOC behind me trying to accommodate everything for us and do the best that they could. And at the end of the day, I didn't perform when it was needed. And I know that all the girls raced phenomenal. Like, I really love Sarah. Like, I think she's one of my like idols. I think she's achieved such great things in the sport, and like to see that, like, it was so exciting. It's an exciting moment. I touched all, like, I was pretty happy because I'm like, damn, like, I'm in an Olympic final. I appreciate that. I've become an Olympic gold medalist and an individual, that what I wanted to achieve. That was my main goal. And I'm like, I look upon this and I go, what else can I do in this 100 freestyle? I'm going to go back to the little stepping blocks and go to Dean and figure out, like, how can I progress from that? How can I work on getting a better time or doing a better, race plan? And I think in that moment, like, yeah, you get really tired throughout the meet, but it's about performing on the day. And I still did a great time, but at the same time, like, the other girls raced a lot better, and that's where it counts. Is about that. But yeah, like, I'm excited for the future because I know that there's a lot more I can learn from that race. And I wouldn't say like I was just, as everyone is, tired from that meet. Like, Olympics is very tiring and not a lot of people get to see the behind the scenes. But yeah, I still appreciate it as, like, I won an Olympic gold, because being an Olympic final is just as great as winning an Olympic gold.
Ooh, I love that sentiment too. Olympic final, Olympic gold. Same. still
You just
still
gotta
great
appreciate it.
accomplishments.
Yeah, you just got to appreciate the little things, because not many people get the opportunity to make an Olympic team. To make the Australian team is extremely hard in those events. And there was a moment, obviously, I'm like, you get upset if you don't achieve what you want to achieve. But I did the best that I could. And you don't fail if you did the best that you could on that day. And that's what I did. I'm disappointed, but I don't think I failed in that race. I just didn't have the energy, and that's okay. And I've learnt from it. And I think, like, it's back to the drawing board.
In terms of just emotionally, right?
Sorry.
I'm curious. You're good. We can cut that moment out.
I'm like, really? I think I'm starting to get sick.
Yeah,
Sorry.
I don't see how you couldn't with coming back from an experience like that, and then just go for
Mm,
6 weeks straight. It's a lot.
alright.
Anyway, emotionally, at an Olympic Games, this being your second one, you kind of had done this before. Again, Tokyo was probably different circumstances, and like you said, things weren't quite as smooth in terms of the village and the life outside of the competition pool. But how do you feel like you managed your emotions and emotional output in a week where you're racing so much, you're experiencing such big highs, like you said, you're not getting a lot of sleep. Um, Scale of 1 to 10, what do you think? How'd you manage your emotions?
Emotions, I would say a five, like a five, because there's big highs and there's big lows. And I did the best that I could to stay professional, to stay in that mindset of racing. And when you start getting tired, sometimes your emotions go a bit out of whack, just because you're just on running on such low energy. Um, and, like, I did the best that I could in those moments to, try and maintain it. But um, as I said before, like, I tried my best to communicate with my coach, and I spoke to Kaylee, and Kaylee has such great experience in the Olympics, from last Olympics to this Olympics, and I think she's one of the best people to go to about advice, and we're very similar. And like I just had amazing people around me, from my roomies to the support team. And I tried my best heading into this meet to set up the best environment for myself. I came with like a little list of things that I wanted, so I didn't have to have that extra, weight of, like, having to deal with this, having to do that. Like a year out from the Olympics, I got a sponsor, Temper, and they put a mattress in the village for me because I knew from last time I was low key traumatized. Um, but stuff like that, like I made sure like I took all that weight off me, just in case get tired and have that emotional stuff. I don't have that extra baggage on top of me. So I think I was really like I tried myself to prepare myself for it, but Olympics is a different ball game. It's anything can happen the moment, and I think like I did the best that I could, and I'm excited for the next few Olympics to come because I've seen the progression from other athletes, from Sarah to Emma. Like you can still achieve great things at an older age, and you learn from those Olympic experiences. So I think there's so much more to come, and like I just take and appreciate everything that I can.
I think that's great to hear. I appreciate your honesty. 5 of 10, I think, is commendable. So commendable for a 9-day competition. Any of my friends can tell you I'm a terror when I start getting tired. uh, so I completely relate to you on that note. I want to share a quick story. So the U.S. Olympic trials is also mirrors the Olympic schedule, so it's 9 days, and I'm there as a member of the media, and it's my least favorite meet to cover because of how long and grueling it is, and because of
Mm.
how tired I get, and then how emotionally unstable I am throughout of it. And 2 days into the meet, I was like, you know what? This is actually going really well. I'm like doing great. This is fine. And then like out of nowhere, on night 3, after the finals, I was with my boss and had like a temper tantrum. It was it was awful. I am not proud of that moment, but I think all to say, these meets can be really difficult and
Mhm.
really take it out of you.
Yeah, they're very difficult. Oh, at least you got it out. Like at least you were like, I've got it out of my system now. Like it's funny.
Honestly, the rest of the meet was great. It
It
was
was just
only
that one
up
point.
from there. It was just that one night that it just didn't go well. But
Oh,
athlete, non-athlete, I'm not comparing us at all, but I'm just saying, those meets are long.
they
For
are
most
very.
people who aren't fans. Yeah.
Yeah,
Um,
like I was even saying to a lot of people, because Australia, different time zones.
hmm.
So a lot of people were waking up at like 4 a.m., 2 a.m. to watch the swimming and that. And I was like, I would have just watched the replay. So, but yeah, like they would go to work and I had family here. But it is very taxing. I'm not going to lie. It's very taxing for everyone because it's such a long meet and we've never done a 9-day meet. And especially like, you're doing that twice. Not fun.
Not fun. Yeah, a lot of the American athletes were kind of like, do we really need to do this twice? I don't know about that. Did your family wake up to watch you swim?
Yeah, so I had my mum and dad and my auntie and cousin overseas with me,
Oh, that's
and
great.
then
Okay.
my sister and like the rest of my family were over here. I have a big family, so they were all over here. So they would wake up and watch me, and it's a bit hard when like I'm pretty much racing every day and different times. I did feel a little bit bad, but it was nice knowing like I had that support behind me, and no matter what I achieved, they were proud of me. And I kind of don't talk to many people while I'm racing, like family wise. I kind of just know social media, know that. But afterwards, to just hear, they're watching every night, even like friends and people on the street stop me. I watched you at 4 a.m. in the morning. It's pretty cool to have that support behind us because it's very rare that people would ever do that for swimming. And especially in Australia too. Like when we go to a national meet, we don't really get anyone in the crowds. It's mainly just family members. But it's a different thing because, coming back to Australia, Kaylee and I were like, we didn't realize this many people watched Olympics or woke up at like this early in the morning to watch us. So it was such a nice thing to be like, oh my God, we had this support behind us, and to come back and to be celebrated as a whole country and everyone's success to be acknowledged was just amazing.
Well, I mean, that's so great to hear. Obviously, well deserved. I think that is a great full circle moment here. Just moving forward into the next couple months. What do you foresee yourself in terms of taking a break or finishing up your break and then getting back into swimming? What do you think that's going to look like for you?
It's going to be obviously very messy, I'm not going to lie. I think that's a given. It's really just going with the feel and meeting up with Dean and, both getting a plan for the next few years. I think, I'm not going to race any meets. I'm not doing World Short Course. I'm not doing World Cups. I'm not doing Queens. I don't want to do Queensland States, but might get forced to. I think it's just taking the moment to hop back in the water and have that, positive connection with the pool, because sometimes doing those things and having such tough moments, it can make you hate the sport. But I want to have that longevity in the sport. So just having that love for the water, and I'm going to take a few time, maybe a month or two extra. I'm kind of planning, but next year, like, maybe I might do Worlds, I might do World Cups, I might do backstroke, I might do freestyle. I don't really know. But I'm just going with the flow.
Breaststroke. We're just going with the
Oh
flow.
no breaststroke for me. No, thank you. I'm horrible at it. Everyone's like, you should do I am. Absolutely not. Do you want to see my breaststroke leg? It's embarrassing. I have to do fly kick and training because it's that bad.
Oh, really? What about do you think you could do the 100 IM?
I reckon maybe because it's just less breaststroke, so I just glide underwater for as long as I could
Right.
and then pop up. I might have to someone might have to teach me how to do breaststroke. Like I don't, because I'm really pigeon toed too, so my feet can't really go outwards, so it's just kind of stuck that way.
I feel like if high tempo and then a really narrow kick, right? Like it's almost
That
dolphin
might be
kick,
the
but not
key.
quite. Huh?
That might be the key. That might be the key. I might test that out. Everyone can see the update in my breaststroke skills.
Yeah. Next 2025 World Cup. Just saying. Well, Mollie, it's been awesome getting to dissect this year with you. Thank you so much for taking the time to sit down and discuss it with us.
No, thank you so much for having me.
You've been listening to the Swim Swam podcast. Stay tuned for new episodes every week. You can take Swim Swam podcast on the go by subscribing on your favorite podcast platform. Look for links in the description below, and be sure to subscribe to our YouTube channel for more videos as well.